there was a report from Brandon Thurston on WrestleNomics about AEW, according to his calculations, lost about 35 million, which as long as they sign their new TV deal, they're not going to have any problem making that back up. Um, but it was interesting to hear that number pop up. Do you feel AEW's future is okay? And do you think there's anything they can do to kind of puff that number up and get themselves in a little better position if that's the case? I know there was some talk of Eric Bischoff had mentioned, they should just drop Ring of Honor, the roster's too big, so on. What did you think about that report when it came up from Brandon?
I mean, on paper, it's concerning. I'm a big fan of AEW, and like you see, if that's the case, it's not something. It doesn't seem like good, but I'm sure there's probably something else that goes into it. You said, and we know they're going to be having these TV negotiations, so ideally they'll get a raise in the numbers there. I think that would help. I'm very optimistic about the future of the company and where they're going. I think every company has things to kind of struggle with. They have the challenges to deal with, obviously. But I think if the TV negotiations go well, and I mean, I think the Continental Classic has been a great way to really kind of electrify some of the fan base and say like, hey, this is what we're about. This is what we're doing. All these matches are great every week, and I think that's added some momentum, even if it's not necessarily showing up in financial estimates or whatever it is, general like perception or momentum. I think that's kind of a good way to end this year, going to the next year. And then we'll see what happens with the negotiations. I think that's going to be a pretty big thing. But I mean, we saw, to me, even though it was in June, at the fact they added Collision, that shows to me that even if it's not one of our discovery, that the company is, a valuable and an attractive piece of property for any TV network. So whatever happens, I think they're going to be just fine in that sense. So I'm hopeful and optimistic. You mentioned there's some other challenges as well. The roster's too big. Maybe Ring of Honor is a little challenging and just inherently. And you mentioned that I saw the Bischoff quote going around. To me, having too much, like the roster being too big, that's a good problem to have. I think now that you have Collision, that's a good way to kind of counteract that as well. You spread out the talent across all three shows. So I'm optimistic and hopeful about it. And I'm definitely hopeful about the negotiations, and that'll help kind of offset any potential loss like that.